A top 10 showdown, a double overtime thriller. Dante Moore, first play. He finds his guy, Gary Bryant Jr., touchdown. Ducks up 30-24. They'd fail on the two-point conversion. Penn State's turn. First play of their drive. Drew Aller looking for his guy. And Drew Aller picked off by Dylan Thieneman, and Oregon wins it 30-24 in double overtime. A big road win for the Ducks. Quack, quack. Welcoming former Louisiana running back Emory Hunt and former Ohio State quarterback and national champion Cardale Jones. Penn State had a chance here, had a chance to do something and have a special game. Oregon comes out on top. The DB makes a play. Drew Aller does not. When you look at the result of this game, Cardale, and Penn State coming up short and Oregon playing a complete game, they're clearly a big winner on the road as they go into Happy Valley and snap that streak of 6 in a row winning in these whiteout games.
Yeah, I think you're talking about the biggest losers here. You got to go with Penn State, and Drew Aller, I think, is tagged to him as well, because what do you want your quarterback to do? We talk about all this Heisman hopefuls coming into the season, all this NFL prospects coming into the season, but the main thing you want your guy to do is to win the big games. Well, he's 0-6 in top AP 6 matchups, and then you look at other top 10 matchups, he don't have a winning record versus quality opponents. So Penn State, Drew Aller, the biggest losers for me tonight.
I would say Oregon is one of the biggest winners. You know, they played a really good game last night, a complete game. And when you talk about winning, you talk about winning in all fronts: offense, defense, special teams, critical situations, backed up offense, red zone offense, third down offense. Oregon kept coming up green and yellow, doing a great job against Penn State. So they definitely stood out as one of my biggest winners tonight.
Oregon has won 3 straight games against top 5 teams for the first time in school history. Here on this night, they take down number 3 Penn State on the road. Plenty more winners who stood out on Saturday. Emory, who else impressed you here in Week 5?
Georgia Tech, because they almost dropped the ball. It's set up for Georgia Tech to go undefeated. And there was one handsome young man on this network that said Georgia Tech was going to win the ACC. I'm talking about myself, so I needed them to win this ball game, and he did a good job coming back and winning against a very game Wake Forest. It took, overtime, but shout out to America's quarterback Haynes King and Georgia Tech for getting the job done.
Nice. Well, I mean, another winner around the country. I got to go with Notre Dame, trying to get that monkey off their back. They're going to have to pull off 10 straight here to make a push for the college football playoffs. But going into a great environment, Arkansas playing against a great team and completely dominating them on all aspects of the ball. Notre Dame and that two-headed running back with Price and Love, they're gonna be a tough team if they make their way to the college football playoffs.
All right, now let's get your biggest losers, Emory. Who didn't show up on Saturday for you?
Arkansas's defense didn't show up at all. That might have been one of the worst defensive performances I've seen from a football team. And when they gave up the touchdowns, it felt like anytime Notre Dame got the football, it was a touchdown. 6 plays, however many yard drive, touchdown. They were out physical. They were just beat by alignment. There was nothing they could have done to knock out Notre Dame. The offense tried, but they gave the ball right back to the defense. Then you had turnovers and everything. Defense wasn't stopping anybody. This was the worst performance I've seen from our Arkansas defense, so they are one of my losers.
Who's another team that didn't meet the moment, Cardale?
Oh, man, Mississippi State had a chance to really start the season off 5-0 and really take down a great SEC team in Tennessee right now. This feel for this loss has a lingering feel right now as they get into the tougher part of their season, right? In the next 5 games, they got all 5 ranked opponents, and they finished their season with, I think, 4 or 5 ranked opponents in the SEC. This win today could have put them and gave them some momentum to get ready for that tough part of their season, but this has had that lingering effect that they're gonna look back on. They're gonna be licking their wounds in the next few weeks, and it's gonna cost them more losses. So Mississippi State.
Elsewhere in the SEC, Ole Miss protects their building. They've now won 7 in a row at home, and LSU comes in and they fell flat, really. I mean, they had 57 yards rushing. They continue to have problems running the football, but just executing as well, Cardale. Like Garrett Nussmeier has only 1 game this season where he's thrown multiple touchdown passes, and we're talking about a kid who is a top draft pick potentially in next year's NFL draft.
Yeah, and even you look at the touchdown pass that he had today that could have been should have been an interception. Mm-hmm. He's just not playing to the standards that we kind of already crowned him to play at early on in the season with these NFL hopefuls and things like that. And then it don't help a quarterback that the quarterback's best friend is a good running game. When you can rush the ball for 57 yards in an environment like Ole Miss, you're not going to win many games. You're going to be forced to drop back and be one-dimensional. And that's what Ole Miss forced LSU to be. And unfortunately for LSU, they're just not that. They're not a great team when they play on one-dimensional. Great defense. The offense got to pick it up.
And if you're going to pick it up, and you're supposed to be a high-level first-round quarterback, you got to play better. So one of my other losers is Garrett Nussmeier, because he didn't play his best football. Turned the ball over, was getting sacked, could have some avoidable sacks. And then if the run game is going to stink, then you got to pick up the slack. Yeah. You got a great defense, and you have an opportunity to get a road win against a very good opponent in Ole Miss, and you missed some throws. You didn't come up in clutch situations. It just wasn't a good showing for Garrett Nussmeier, nor this LSU offense as a whole, because now if you can't depend on your run game, you look at your passing game, it's like, well, we can't depend on you either. So he didn't play well, and actually was a big reason why they lost this game to Ole Miss.
What would you ask Brian Kelly? Would you be that reporter and say, hey, we asked you about your running game. We had concerns. If you were going to be talking to Brian Kelly right now, what would you ask him?
Unfortunately, I am that guy. I stick that knife and I turn a little bit. As I was saying Tuesday, Coach Kelly, about the running game, right, before you rudely cut me off. You know, I would definitely emphasize that, because you look at the way LSU has been built historically. You mentioned it earlier in the show that LSU historically has been known as running back U, and it seems like Brian Kelly is going away from that a little bit. So you have reporters who's been covering LSU for decades who's now seeing the new trend that's not working. So of course I'm going to bring up, hey, hold on now, listen, we've been competitive, we won national championships, we've been always in the conversations for SEC championship game, and this was the pedigree. Why are you going away from it? So.
It's tough, man, and you know I know producer Lucas is gonna hate me for this, but there's some also guys that I'm gonna give you an honorable mention. You know, you have Fordham linebacker James Conway notched his 500th tackle today versus Holy Cross, and Greg DeRozier Jr. of Memphis, 19 carries, 204 yards, 3 touchdowns, 10.7 yards a carry for America's team.
Those are your bonus winners?
Those are bonus winners, you know what I'm saying?
All right, well, I'm going to get...
LSU should give him a call.
Right, you know what I'm saying? Like,
right. Well,
the Tabasco money.
We've got Brian Kelly here. He has something to say. Brian, what do you got?
Garrett Nussmeier's got to play better. Every player on offense has got to play better. And then we have to be more consistent on defense. I mean, there's not one guy that you will put out, Koki, and go, well, that was the reason why we lost. There's many players that have to play their best when their best is needed. It's a long season. We're disappointed with today. Ole Miss was the better football team today. But tomorrow comes. And we have to realize that I love the way this team prepares. We have to perform better. Our performance was not good enough today. And that performance has to be synchronized with both offense and defense. We can't play sporadic football where we have spurts of really good offense and spurts of really good defense. We have to put that together. And that starts with your players recognizing that they have to do their job, not somebody else's. And they do.
All right, so you heard Brian Kelly say that Garrett Nussmeier's got to be better. How would you feel if he called you out in the media right there when you know you have to be better, right? If I stumble through a segment and the producer goes, Hakeem, you got to be better. I know I got to be better, right? Exactly. If they go, Cardale, you got to be more on point with your telestration here. What are you doing? I get it, but this is college football. This is a young man. He's not a pro. I mean, I guess he's a pro. He's getting paid. But if you're him, how are you feeling right now if you're Garrett Nussmeier?
You know what? I'm not feeling any type of way because as a player, you know you got to play better in those situations. I'm not feeling any type of way towards his comments. I'm more so feeling a type of way towards him as a coach and as a man, because everything you just said, I hear nothing that you said we need to be better as coaches or staff or putting our guys in position for success. Nothing was about his staff or himself. That was always my pet peeve with coaches. Never throw guys under the bus. It's a collective effort of why we lost. It's a collective effort of why we win. And my comments would have been very cut and clear. Hey, we got to play better as a team. I got to coach better. And we got to do things like that versus individual players. So it'd be hard for me to play for a guy like that.
This is where you have to take ownership. And you know, as a former college athlete, and you know as a former college athlete as well, where coaches do not take ownership in some of these situations. I'll remind you, when Brian Kelly left Notre Dame, what did the student athletes do in that room when Marcus Freeman walked?
They were happy he left.
That's all you need to see. I'm not saying he's a bad head coach, but when you have these repeated incidents of either throwing your player under the bus or having these outbursts in the media, this doesn't look good, and you're a top 5 team.
Yeah, that divides your locker room. That's the quickest thing to divide your locker room when, coaches or someone not taking ownership, especially a Brian Kelly, a coach of this magnitude at a university like this, where you're looking for almost a scapegoat. Hey, it's not me. He got to play better. The guy was wide open. No, whatever it is on me, and I got to coach it better. I got to get my guys in position to succeed.
Cardale Jones, Emory Hunt here with us on CBS Sports HQ. They're always winners in my book and your book as well. As you take a look at LSU's upcoming schedule, got South Carolina, but then 3 tough opponents, and no knock on South Carolina, but Vanderbilt is looking good. That they got a matchup against Alabama coming up next week, then Texas A&M, and then they take on Alabama in a massive rivalry game where they got to go to Tuscaloosa, and then they finish the year at Oklahoma. So perhaps LSU's going to need to look in the mirror and say, what's our identity? And you heard Brian Kelly, got to do your job. Well, you also have to do your job. You're the head coach.
They got to stew on that loss for 2 weeks, too.
That's a tough one.